So, what is Audacity? Let's just begin with that. Let us introduce the platform. So it is a free, open source tool platform for creating and editing various audio content. And what is associated with it is that it can be used in any sort of context, including educational context. This is not to be confused with the use of the actual material. So, some of which may be copyrighted, like music, which if you want to use, there are certain restrictions that you may wish to look into. These do not apply to the use of Audacity as such. That is free, kosher, and good to go for all the instructors, for all of us. You can use it to record live audio with your computer using a built-in microphone or a freestanding peripheral microphone. We did have a workshop last semester where we suggested some of the microphone hardware that could be used for sound recording and for our purposes. So if you need a refresher, it's all on our YouTube channel. I can also provide you the link after the presentation. What Audacity also lets you do is you can record audio that actually plays on your computer. And what I mean by that is that anything that comes out of your speakers can also be captured. It is much easier to do it if you're a Windows user. For a Mac, you're going to have to install a plugin, which is a pretty simple process. If you are interested in that, if you have that kind of need, just let me know, and I will be happy to assist you in doing that. Audacity is also really good for sound editing and mixing. We will see some of the basic sound effects and basic capacities in this workshop. There's, of course, a lot more, but once you see how some of the more rudimentary things work, the rest of it will come naturally. There is a whole plethora of sound effects that can be applied, and that array is continuously expanding by developers. And it is also really good for digitizing and archiving. So, many of us have been teaching, have been instructors for many, many years. Over the course of the time, we may have collected some materials that are in the analog format, cassette tapes or compact discs, things like that. With Audacity, you can pretty easily turn that into sound files and keep it, store it on your hard drive. Okay, so that is already one or many reasons why we should care about Audacity, why it is something that we should appreciate as our language instructors. There are some more reasons that we'll quickly go over. So it is really good for creating authentic second language audio resources. Again, this is something that will be touched on, will be addressed later on in the semester during one of our workshops, one of our Friday pedagogy workshops. I already mentioned, using or digitizing your analog content. Also, because of how seamless and how intuitive it is to use, it's perfectly suitable for developing, building out these scaffolded activities that may require some pausing, some silencing, maybe some slowing down of content, depending on the proficiency level and what it is that you pedagogically would like to do. So it's pretty good for that purpose. It also, if you, as instructors, if this is something that you may be interested in having your students use, it's helpful in encouraging creativity within your students. They can also use it to develop their own projects for language, but also just in terms of general skill set that may be useful to them, outside of the university. I think that sound editing is a good skill to have. It comes in handy surprisingly often. Okay, so those are some of the reasons why Audacity is relevant to us. and why we should be paying attention to it. So how do we then put it on our computers? I'm not going to go through the installation process because that will take a lot of time. What I will do instead is just present this slide to you, and I've already shared it with you, or at least with some of you. I think we have some newcomers here, so let me throw this slide deck into the chat one more time. Here we go. So the program can be downloaded from here. You got to make sure that you're getting the latest version for your system. So if you're using Windows, the latest version for Windows, Mac, the latest version for Mac. Chances are that the site will detect what system you're using and cause you to download the right version. But there's a bunch of them listed, so just to make sure that you're getting the right thing. Also, there are certain things that you can add. Actually, the list of plugins is pretty extensive. There are 2 plugins that I identified that I think you should install from the get-go. Those are listed here. The first one deals with sound files that are generated via Zoom. We can make sound recordings with Zoom. And when that happens, it kind of splits the recording, the video, and a separate audio track. The way that the audio track is encoded cannot be really directly imported into Spotify unless you have this little plugin here already installed. And with the second lame plugin, that is something that is useful for exporting. So once you're done editing, you have the project ready, you want to turn it into a file. This is something that you want to have installed in order to turn it into an MP3. And we will see how that kind of sort of all works together. And on that note, let me switch screen sharing over to the actual application window, which is right here. So everybody should see the Audacity window, correct? Yes, okay, great, awesome. Like I said, if you have it on your computer, feel free to sort of work along. If not, just watch. It will all make sense. So this is what the Audacity platform looks like. As you see, it's pretty empty. There's literally nothing here. So let us add something to it. And maybe in doing so, let me change the screen share to the desktop so that I can actually show you what I mean by it. Okay, so now you see my whole screen. I'm just going to move things around a bit. Bear with me. Okay, so let me throw a file here, which I have prepared already on my desktop, and I'm just dragging and dropping it into the editor window. Okay, and just like that, it sort of appears, and we can already play it. And this file may sound familiar. In fact, if you've participated in our previous workshops, you may recognize this little subway announcement clip, which we used in one of the previous activities. So, okay, great. So what I did here is I took a screen recording with Zoom of this particular clip, and I isolated the audio separated the audio from the video and put it into Audacity. So here we are. Okay, let me maybe make it a little bit bigger and perhaps also just expanded so that the whole spectrum is is visible. Okay. I basically just click the magnifying glass icon. Okay, and let me move over to the very beginning of the file, and when I hit play, you notice that there's a lot of silence before anything is happening there. So let us maybe begin by trimming this silence out. And to do that, I want to make sure, and this is kind of important. So Audacity has all these different selection tools here that play different roles depending on what it is that you want to do, that you're after. So since we want to manipulate various portions of this audio track, we want to use this selection tool first, which will then allow us to sort of highlight the portion of the track that we are interested in. And with it highlighted, I'm just going to hit delete and remove it. And just like that, it's already been trimmed out. Okay. There's obviously a lot more to it. And the way that it is laid out is kind of cumbersome. So let us maybe adjust the view here. And what I will do is hit the view tab at the top and go to track size and fit to the width. And this will kind of compress everything into a neat, visible segment that I can readily see in its entirety. Okay, I'm going to stick with the selection tool, mark the other end of the track, delete it, and just like that, we have now a nicely trimmed segment. Okay, but what we were after really is not just maybe playing audio files, but doing something with them, sort of developing a structure around them, right? So okay, we have a pretty good base here. Let us maybe, given this material, record some instructions, record a prompt to it, if you will. To do that, well, first things first, we've got to make sure that we have the right device selected. So currently, what I have connected to my computer is nothing. I only have the built-in microphone. The Zoom audio device may appear on your list as well if you have Zoom installed. And then, if you have other peripherals, they will be listed here. Again, I don't, so I'll just stick to the microphone. And so to see if the microphone is correctly adjusted, we locate this microphone icon here in the top bar and click to start monitoring. Okay, and just like that, it kind of gives you a sense of how the volume is regulated. Generally, you want to keep these bars oscillating within the green range. As soon as they become red, you may want to lower the microphone volume. And to do that, you would go to the other microphone icon and just simply move the slider a little bit down to adjust it the way that you see fit. Okay. This is something that, if you forget, that's fine. These things can be also adjusted after the fact, but, it's good to set it properly for the recording. Okay, so with the microphone already set, I'm gonna click out of the testing, and I'm just gonna go ahead and record some things. So I prepared a little prompt that I will read out to the microphone, and let us see how it records. Okay. Listen to the following recording of an MTA announcement. What are you hearing? Can you guess what part of the city the train is running through? It looks like the train has unexpectedly skipped one station and is now stopping somewhere else. Do you know where you're being dropped off at? If you wanted to get off at the skipped station, how would you go about that? How would you ask for directions? And stop right here. Okay, great. So we see that the program has captured the recording coming through the microphone. The recording got placed after the first segment, which is normally what happens. But notice that now if I want to play everything that we have here in the editor, it will seamlessly switch from one to the other. Okay, great. So we have a bunch of material already prepared. This is a little bit on the quiet side. So let's see if we can make it a little bit louder. I'm gonna highlight it. And I will modulate using what's called the envelope tool, which is this guy right here. So let me demonstrate what happens when we click on it. We can go ahead and seamlessly increase the volume of the tracks that we are trying to manipulate. And this is also useful for things like, fade in or fade out effects. Another way in which volume can be increased is by going to the effects. And you see there's a whole list of those. What we will do is go to amplify and increase it by, I don't know, maybe this much. Okay. And this should do the job. Let us just play it to make sure. Listen to the following recording of, okay, perfect. Okay, so this already sounds pretty good. Okay, let us now go back to the actual recording. What I did here is I recorded two prompts. Essentially, there's a prompt that precedes the actual announcement, and then there's a prompt that follows it. So I kind of did the whole reading in one fell swoop because it is convenient to do so. But eventually, I would like to maybe separate it and to move things around and to create seamless 7th Avenue bound Q Express. So what I will do is increase the size. There we go. Here's a magnifying glass. Okay. And I think it may have been somewhere here. It looks like the train has, okay, perfect. It looks like the train, okay, I'm gonna stop right here. So somewhere around here would be the demarcation between the two prompts. I'm gonna mark it with the selection tool. And you will notice that right now this track is continuous. To separate it, what I will do is go to Edit and Clip Boundaries, and I will select Split. Now there's a shortcut for a Mac that is Command I. For on the Windows computer, it's going to be Control I. But let me click on it right here, and you will notice that now there's a separation between those two, right? Which is good. This is exactly what we wanted. So moving back to the screen width, I'm gonna now move things around, right? So to shift the various bits and pieces, I'm going to use the time shift tool, which allows me to move all these different fragments the way I see fit and sort of stick them to the time axis. So since this is a prompt that precedes the actual announcement, I will move it up front. Then I will move the actual announcement right here. And you see how it kind of neatly snaps into place. And then the follow-up prompt will go towards the end of it. Okay. So let's see what this sounds like. Listen now to the following recording of an MTA announcement. What are you hearing? Can you guess what part of the city the train is running through? Okay, that sounds pretty good. And there are other things that we can do with the sound that we can do with Audacity. As I pointed out, there are a lot of effects. Many of them are, some of them more useful than others. What I think may be particularly useful to us as language instructors are two of these effects. And then the first one would be to change the speed of the recording. Granted, this is something that students can do on their own, whether on the phone or the computer, but you can also make it so that the recording sounds slower if you need to. Another thing that, may be considered is what's called noise reduction. And this is very useful for, particularly noisy material, sort of kind of what we have here with this train announcement. Now, the downside of using noise reduction is that you may be foregoing a dimension of authenticity, right? I mean, sound is never perfect. Like, we don't exist in sound booths, so there's always going to be some interference when communicating. And this is something that students, may need to be prepared for. Okay, other than that, this looks pretty good to me. Let us now go ahead and save it and generate the file. So to do that, I will go to the file, and the intuitive thing would be to save the project. This is not something that you want to do. You can't, of course, but it will not generate the file. It will basically just save it as a file that is that can be opened by Audacity. So, if you want something that you can share with your students, what you want to do is you want to export it, okay? And with that option, there are a bunch of formats that Audacity allows you to save your sound files in. And it goes, from WAV all the way to MP3, the difference being quality and compression rate. So what I mean by that is you can save things as a WAV file, and that's fine. They're going to be great, fantastic quality. They're also going to be gigantic and not very easily shareable via email or Canvas. What is generally recommended is the MP3 format. And, I've been coming to our workshops. This is something that you may be familiar with by now. So let us click on that. And I'm going to save it as MTA, or maybe listening task. I will save it to the desktop. It will be an MP3 file. This can be pretty much left unchanged. I wanted to just draw your attention really quickly to the quality drop-down menu, which has been simplified lately in Audacity. So now we have 3 different quality types for MP3. I think standard is the default, which is perfectly fine for just basic sound voice-based files. I like using Extreme, which is a little bit heavier. It takes a little bit more room, but also allows users to hear certain phonetic nuances. So I will select this, and as I mentioned, leave everything as is and click save. Sure, that's fine. I don't care. You don't need to show this to me again. And one last thing, it's called metadata tags. This you can pay attention to or not, up to you. This is the kind of information that usually shows when files are played in iTunes or on MP3 players, if those exist still. Yeah, I like to fill these out, but like I said, this is not necessary. So things will work without it. Track title would be task 1, let's say, and maybe year would be 2021. It's good to keep track of these things. Genre would be ESL. Okay, great. I'm going to hit OK. Add. Okay, and just like that, a file got generated. And just to show you that it did, I will share it with everyone through chat. Okay. Yeah, so now you can open it if you want, now or later, and see how it renders, how it plays on your computers or on your devices in general. Okay, so with that being said, let me change the screen sharing option one more time and go back to the browser. And I'm going to switch back to the presentation. So, like I said, this was just the basics of Audacity. Things are more complex. They can get more complex. The good news is that we probably won't need the kind of complexity that Audacity offers. But what we will need, though, is what we have covered today. So starting with how to install and configure this thing. And remember, we mentioned 2 plugins that are pretty crucial for our needs and purposes. We saw how to import files into Audacity, how to record voice and using your own peripherals or computer microphone. We also touched base on some pretty standard sound editing and mixing techniques. So we saw how to trim files. We didn't cover compression, but that's okay. We also took a look at fading in and out, how to mix things, how to sort of put various segments together. And also removing background noise is something that is left out. But if you're interested, I'm happy to demonstrate how to do it. If you would also like a source of reference, there is a whole wiki dedicated to Audacity, and the link is right here. It's pretty accessible. Not a whole lot of technical jargon, so I do recommend taking a peek. And since I mentioned taking a peek, let us move to any questions or contributions, suggestions that you may have at this point.
Simon, a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
I have a VHS video, and it was a recording of a writer, and we talked about Kiswahili. Unfortunately, he's really a well-known writer, and he passed away recently, so that tape is very valuable. But when I recorded it, unfortunately, there was a soda machine in the back, and it had sounds, and then so the sound is not good. Is there any way that could be retrieved?
So if you have is it recorded as a file?
No. It's still a videotape, a VHS tape.
It's a VHS tape. So what would need to happen here is we'd first need to digitize it. Then from this digital copy, would then isolate the soundtrack.
Okay.
and we would then try to remove the background noise digitally.
Okay. So I'll talk to you about that.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
hmm
Thank
yeah,
you.
because this is, an old source, and it is audio video and not just audio. There are a
Yeah.
few additional steps that are required that sort of exceed the scope of this presentation. So yeah, do come, and we'll see what we can do. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
hmm Um, I'm curious if any of you have used Audacity already in your classes, or to develop materials, and if so, if you can maybe share your experiences, maybe activities that you've developed with it, um, or is this something that is
Oh,
that is new?
I've never used it.
I have. When I was doing podcast with my advanced class, we use Audacity or Audition. Audition is like the professional version of Audacity, and it has more tools to it, and it's more difficult to use. So I I spent a lot of time training my students to use Audition, and then they were getting frustrated. So we went back to Audacity, which is the free version, which is more accessible, and it worked the same as what I think. Well, for what I needed, I didn't see the need to use the professional version of it. Still is very technical. You can spend a lot of hours editing audio. I asked my students to have sound effects. So whatever story they were telling, they needed to use sound effects. And that could be a little bit tricky also to place into the timeline. But I think it was very fun. Once I don't consider myself like um, comfortable user, but I know the basics. And like once you start using it, you find more tools and more things that you can do, and then you can spend hours on it.
Maria, how you mentioned that you've spent considerable amount of time working with students on teaching them how to use the alternative platform to Audacity. With Audacity, did you have a similar experience? I'm just trying to gauge how long it would take for for an instructor to sort of prepare students to use this.
With Audition, we spent probably like 3 or 4 classes, and then the students were still going to get help to the people at IMATS here in Barnard. So it was too much. So with Audacity, I think we spent 2 classes just training, and then the rest we were like whenever we talked about the final project in class, somebody was saying like, I have a hard time doing this, and somebody would say, oh, this is the way you do it. So we did like a little. We had like a small time at the end of some classes just to do a little bit of troubleshooting with them, and I figured out like what they learn on their own, and doing we can help each other, and we didn't need to go to IMATS to get help.
Okay, so this is good to know, this arrangement where students can work with each other, helping one another without necessarily having the authorities involved in the process. What was your experience as an instructor? I was mentioned that you also developed some things, some exercises with Audacity. How did it go for you?
Well, I didn't do like exercises. I did the introduction to our podcast.
Okay.
So that's about it, what I did using the program. And now I need to go back and edit it because it's it's outdated. But I didn't do exercises, and that's why I wanted to come to this workshop, because I was thinking, okay, how do I do it in a class, like we have tons of audio activities in the textbook, but sometimes I want to prepare my own. So I wanted to come and see what you had to show us.
I think that when it comes to the actual listening comprehension activity design, this is something that we will be discussing on Thursdays and definitely on Fridays in the second part of the semester. In that sense, Audacity is just a means to an end, it's just a tool that allows you to sort of put these things together a little bit easier. So for the purpose of this presentation, I resorted to something pretty basic. But if you have questions that require something more involved, so to speak, yeah, I'm happy to work with you individually as well.
Can I say something that's probably not very helpful, but we tend now to be maybe fascinated by videos. So a lot of our listening exercises are actually just, you prepare some questions and you show the students a video and you use the image, as much. And I was just attending this presentation has made me rethink that, because of course, showing a video, you also show a number of visual aids to comprehension or sometimes distractions. And so this is why, I was just wondering, and probably I should have the students listen to more things, without pictures. So, yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that is that is a good comment. And I think that depending on your end goal, as an instructor, your teaching goal and your learning goals for the students that you're setting out, you may want to think about, okay, what contexts, either educationally or for lack of a better word, real life, would it be more suitable to use just pure audio, that is as clean as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where should I apply or look into using materials that are a little more distorted? There's a little more interference, right? And where should I then supplement that with video, sort of this additional layer of meaning? So yeah, those are good things to think about for sure. Thank you for that. Now, speaking of activities, I just have one more question, and that is, it's super open. I was wondering if, as you were following this presentation and thinking about some of the ways in which listening comprehension can be facilitated, did you think of any specific activities, tasks that Audacity may help you facilitate?
Well, one thing that is very difficult to do, and when you're a language learner, is to handle telephone conversations. Mm-hmm. And that, you can't see the person, you have no gestures, you have nothing, and that is very difficult. So I guess maybe, that could be an exercise to have students listen to. Mm-hmm. But then, how would you do that? That's something that's super hard.
The audio.
You need the audio for both phones. So both.
But also, since a lot of the communication happens through things like
Zoom,
Messenger or FaceTime, that you could do a screen recording, right?
True.
With Zoom, and then separate the audio, and use it maybe that way. So maybe an idea.
Well, there's the radio as well. But then you can just. I mean, the nice thing is that sometimes recordings, just like videos, they disappear from the web. So it's a way to keep them forever. I mean, for as long as you need them. Because otherwise, I mean, the simple answer to the technological challenges is just to say, okay, well, I found this thing on Radio France Internationale, and they archive their stuff, you know, for 10 years. So I'm just going to put a link to that and write a couple of questions and just send it to the students. But then you rarely have a segment that's just the right length. And it's obviously neater to just tell the students, just listen to this clip. But if you don't have time, you can just say to them, you know, just start at 2 minutes and 43 seconds and listen up to there and just do the activity. I mean, I see that Chris says that Audacity is super fast and easy to use. And certainly, I mean, what you showed us, I mean, seems to support that, you know, that it's really not too complicated. If you do not try to do very complex operations like adding sound effects and things like that, which can be like a rabbit hole. I mean, it can be an endless project.
Yeah, it is as simple as you want it to be, or as complex as you want it to be. So I think that is the appeal, definitely the selling point of this platform, and it's free. So
yeah, it's good.
You know, why not take the plunge?
But I mean, compared to if you want to do your own recording, I mean, you can also just use the MP3. Well, I don't remember what I have on my computer, but something that generates MP3s, and that's kind of simple too.
Yeah. So since it is tangentially related to the workshop, if you are looking to just record things quickly, and by things I mean audio. There is a very robust and very simple to use tool, in-browser tool. It's called Vocaroo. Some of you may be familiar with it.
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. It's basically just a button that we can use to record things. To record things.
Oh, that's easy.
We can
and then you export.
Record things. And then if we like it, we save it, download it, and it by default encodes as an MP3. So, you know, this may be an alternative for instances where we just want to really quickly record a piece of narration, let's say. But again, we can just as well do that already within Audacity without having to move or import things. So that's a good conversation. Anything else? So unless there are other things that we should talk about, thank you for attending. It's been a pleasure. Again, we will put up the recording on our YouTube channel for the record. And I hope this was useful to you to some extent. And if there's anything that you would like to follow up with and continue to explore this platform, do let us know. We are here to help.